gosh, Tommy Robinson keeps popping.
Right, well, please
Hello.
say we've got the amazing Jane Kelly on again, and I'd just like to say a few things about Jane. I see her many, many times at protests holding the big banner saying end forced adoption. We did a podcast probably about a year ago now, wasn't it? Maybe around a year
More,
ago.
I think.
Yeah,
I think it was a bit more than that. Yeah.
We caused ripples amongst the powers that be, and I think we're going to hope for a big tsunami on this one. You know what I mean?
100%. 100%.
So we exposed the child trafficking in the UK, and Jane's just going to give us a bit more of an update, and we're going to throw a few big names under the bus because that's what needs to happen. It needs to happen, doesn't it, Jane? Do you know what I mean?
It certainly does need to happen. Well, what a day to be doing a podcast. Yes, Mr. Andrew Prince, his mother has just handed out £12 million to get him off the hook. And I would say this is happening with all paedophiles in the UK at the present time. Let's just bury it, yeah, because we know underneath the surface that, there is a big battle for our children at the moment.
It's a bit more sinister than just abusing women, raping women, isn't it? And that's shocking enough. You know what I mean?
It is, yes. There is a complete plan to destroy the family unit, to destroy children, to depopulate. And I don't know if I said at my last podcast, but Tony Blair started this ball rolling with his eugenic society and his big ideas of New World Order. And if they can take our children like they are doing through the family courts, one child every 20 minutes, and this has got since the all this 2 years of this going on, they've upped the ante. They've absolutely upped the ante with stealing children. We haven't had family courts in session where you can actually go, so it's all been done virtually. So what they can do is just press the button and mute you if they're not happy with what they want to say, what you want to say in the family court process. And they're rubber stamping, absolutely just rubber stamping. We've got corruption going on with the family court, with the solicitors, with psychologists, which we've just found out today that one of the girls, the psychologist, isn't even registered as a psychologist. And she's been on today. I've just had a phone call. And it's just massive. And Tony Blair started this up with Adoption Vision for Change. And what it was doing was privatising. I'm just going to put that down because I'm a bit wobbly now. I'm getting a bit over it. Privatising the adoption and fostering process. And what they've done is they've regionalised adoption so that all the adoption and fostering is private. So once the child goes out of duty of care of the council, it's like crossing county lines. Drug dealers, like they cross county lines, and that's. We
just kind of vanish, don't they? From my understanding, once they cross the county line, they've pretty much vanished out of the system.
They vanished. They vanished. He also stopped the guardianship laws as well with that Adoption Vision for Change. So there's no way of finding out where the children are actually going. And I think I mentioned, you can go back and look at my other podcast. The very first social worker was working for a research hospital in the Middle East. At the same time, he was working for one of these adoption agencies, and he was a project manager, taking children from all the poor areas of the north of England. I also found out that our senior regional governance officer is a gentleman called, I won't call him a gentleman, he thinks he's a gentleman, but we're exposing him.
We're right honourable. I'm like, at what point are you honourable and right about anything? You only address the MPs in Parliament. It always makes me feel crazy. Right?
Well, let me say about the MPs. MPs are getting hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of letters. It depends which constituency you're in. Because, my constituency here, he'll be getting a handful because this is a middle class council. So they're not targeting the middle class. I mean, some of them are slipping through the net. We had a scientist on the other day that had his children stolen. I mean, wherever they can, or get them from, but it's predominantly the poorer communities that are having their children stolen from.
Yeah.
And well, the north of England is obviously targeted, but only in the poverty areas, you know, the disadvantaged areas. Like, I'll give you, for instance, our west coast of Cumbria, where all the industry's gone from, Vickers shipyard, the chemical plants, all, you know, everything that was, you know, the employment was all gone, and they've got horrific, you know, poverty, and they're targeting these small seaside resorts, seaside areas all around the west coast and the east coast of the north of England.
Someone from a council house in Manchester, I can back up a play for social services. You know, you find a bit of cannabis on someone's table, it's, oh, we're going to take your child up, you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They're just for the...
Any excuse.
Well, even excuses, if they can't find an excuse, they'll make something up.
Yeah.
And Jerry was saying, what they do is they write reports and they copy and paste from some other family. They'll copy and paste a circumstance, and they'll use that in the family court. They don't need to find
on it and think we can be unchallenged. You know what I mean?
There's no challenging. That's the problem. We cannot challenge anything because it's a secret family court. The judge's decision's final, and the judge is paid off as well. So if your child is targeted by social services, you don't stand a chance in the family court. Anyway, getting back to our agency up here in the north of England, it covers the whole the way across the north of England, and it's called Coast to Coast Adoption Agency. And they set it up in 2019. Ours was one of the last ones to be set up. Every region has got one of these adoption agencies now, so that it doesn't come under a local council. It comes under a group of councils. So there's you county line, crossing county lines, no access to the children once they've gone. Anyway, Sandip Mahajan, and I will spell his first name, it's S-A-N-D-I-P, not Sandeep. That's really important, because there's lots of Sandeeps in the world, just like my MP here in Cumbria told me. Can't, you know, how do you know it's him? Well, I'll tell you how I know it's him, because Sandip has changed his name to Dip, and there's only two, and he's the one. I mean, I'm not going to say he's him if he's not him. He's a multi-billionaire. He has probably about 40 companies now under his belt. He's a director. He's a director of Steinhoff, Balfour Beatty, Pepco, Ibex, many, many more. He's the elite. Yeah, he's the elite. He's a logistics expert, and he's a finance officer. Why do they need this man at the top of an adoption agency from the government? This is a senior governance officer that's come from the government. If there's not money to be made in this industry of trafficking our children, because that's what they're doing, they are trafficking children through social services.
For me, that's the biggest thing at the moment. People, you know, COVID and all that, but for me, it's child trafficking. I think that's probably the biggest pandemic.
If we see the numbers, Si, of how many they are taking and disappearing,
and how many have gone this last year, and where can people confirm this figure? Because it's quite a big figure, isn't it?
We would like to have the figure confirmed, but they won't. You know, they're all about the data. Okay, I was watching a podcast, and it was about the data of children that are in society, and this is from the Commissioner's Office. This is the Children's Commissioner's Office, and they were giving a presentation of how they collect data to find out how they can grab hold of the vulnerable in society. They said that they had sort of like a graph, and they showed, well, these are the amount of children that we know are on the books through social services. These are the amount of children that we know are in this scheme or something. And then they did this huge circle, and it was 2.5 million children that they think, that they are estimating, that they are suggesting are vulnerability. So this is so they've got these ideas of what vulnerability is. So they've got a whole list of things that think, and if they've got one or two of these vulnerabilities, so I've got filthy hands because I've been cleaning out my fire. Filthy hand, goodness me, get your head straight, girl. Vulnerability, classes of vulnerability, and they're estimating that they have to find 2.5 million children that are vulnerable in society. Now, if that's the target that they're targeting these children, so what they're doing now, Si, is putting social workers into schools.
It's just disgusting.
This is 100% dangerous, because these social workers lie. They cannot tell the truth. Okay, so
I've got personal experiences and I back it up, but we do life for a living, and
absolutely lie.
Psychiatrists,
they make things, psychiatrists, psychologists, anybody that can write a report on your children are liars. And I will say that because we've seen so much evidence.
I mean, people are saying tens of thousands.
We've come a long way since I spoke to you last time.
Yeah.
We now have a number of organisations that are supporting and advocates. We're training up social workers. Lois Diamond, training up social workers if anybody wants to become a social worker. We've got lawyers that are on our side. We've got judges. Jerry Hanna at Parenting Together, he's had a couple of judges come along and say, we know what's going on, we don't like it, and we want to help you bring them to our court. So there are big positives going on. The problem is with that is that now we're being targeted, and a number of us in our communities are being targeted. I've had my phone hacked twice. We've got JJ, who was taken at gunpoint in the middle of the night. Those people, MI5, he stated they were MI5. They took him to a police station in Wales from London.
Right.
MI5.
There was a Scottish guy as well. There was a Scottish guy a couple of years ago who announced he was on his way down to Westminster to expose it all, and he ended up getting found in his car being just shot in the head twice. Apparently, he killed himself. And there was also a big, scandal in North Wales, wasn't there? That was quite a big one, the North Wales one, and then there's so many others. Colgate Island, the monastery off Tenby, and a lot of it's become exposed. But I think there's a lot of people saying tens of thousands of children went missing last year. Would you say that's correct, or would you say it's only hundreds of thousands now?
Yeah. The thing is, it's a multi-billion-pound industry worldwide, multi-billion-pound, and I would say that the UK are heading up there with America for one of the, because of the policies, because now it's policy to remove children and traffic them, and it's not just. I mean, I've got a statement from the Federation of International Social Workers. And I'll just read this out to you, aside for your viewers, because if you see, this is not just me saying this. This is documented evidence of social services working for the New World Order.
For those who aren't aware, Pizzagate is real. Just in case you believe the BBC when they said it's a conspiracy theory. The trafficking of children is absolutely disgusting.
Well, we've got Epstein, a child trafficker, and that was just the tip of the iceberg. Tip of the iceberg.
We can't sweep under the rug. I know with the Maxwell case, we tried to kind of like just usher it to one side, and it's been corrupted. But there's people like Bill Gates who went to Epstein Island 17 times, and there's a lot of new people that are considered.
Anyway, let me just read this statement out to you from the social services. So the social services workforce connects globally through the IFSW. That's the International Federation of Social Workers. Right. It is a recognised NGO at the UN and works with the IASSW and the ICSW to promote global agenda for social work and social development, a 10-year project from 2015 onward, reporting to the UN and the WHO. In 2015, there will be a major European event in the UK hosted by the BASW involving the whole social services sector that will continue to contribute to this work under the second theme, promoting dignity and worth of people. Bullshit. Now, this is their quote, right, from the International Federation of Social Workers. We, the International Federation of Social Workers, the International Association of Schools for Social Work, and the International Council for Social Work feel compelled to advocate for the new world order.
And we know that they're, the
That's
first
depopulation.
Depopulation. Georgia Guidestone's 500 million, literally set in stone. We've got government documents which show that the UK population aims to be 15 million by 2025.
So when you put that in with what I was saying about the Children's Commissioner data collecting, that they want to find and remove 2.5 million children through social services into these dodgy fostering associations. Do you know that they are training up and bringing in social workers, fast tracking them in from India and from Africa? They are getting visas, and they hardly speak any English. And these social workers, you can imagine, they've no qualms. I mean, look at our history with Africa and India. They've no qualms at taking our white British children. And I must say, they're not all white British children. I was in Middlesbrough last week with one of our campaigners, and he introduced me to a gentleman called Ola, and he's from Nigeria. And they are the refugees that are coming in, people that are coming in are having their children removed. And their Nigerian community are fighting back because so many babies and infants are being removed by social services for no reason whatsoever. They're just making stuff up. Wow. And so every community in the country is getting targeted. But you see, it's an international effort by social work. And you think about this International Federation of Social Workers, when was it set up? Under Hitler. What was Hitler doing? He was doing exactly the same thing. He was going into countries with social workers and removing their children. If they weren't the right race, if they had disabilities, because they're targeting children with disabilities, the IQ, if you look at eugenics and the movement of eugenics, which this is, it's about the IQ level of a child as well.
You introduced me to a word that Matt Hancock's the head of genomics. Do you want to just break down eugenics and genomics in 30 seconds?
Genomics, yeah. Well, genomics is the manipulation of the genes, and China's way ahead on us with this. They've been manipulating genes. Do you know, I spoke to a lady who was she was an expert in genomics, because I wanted to get my head around it, what they were doing. And she said, if you alter 5%, I don't think it was 5, I think it was 2 or 3%, I can't remember exactly, of the genes in a human being, you're not a human being anymore.
That's what we're doing with these jabs, isn't it? But that's just like for the everyday public on another level. But we're getting children, they're holding them in like horrible facilities.
On another level, what they're doing in China is they're manipulating human beings so that they can run for 10 miles and not get tired. I mean, you think about the soldiers, they're like little ants that they, and they can run for 10 miles and never get tired. They can manipulate your genes in such an extent. I mean, I heard a report that they could even manipulate genes so you could eat grass instead of food. If you couldn't find food, you can survive off grass. I mean, you think about the Chinese army, just coming in and sweeping us all out in one go. I mean,
it's a possibility.
They could be these soldiers, and this is a fact.
Yeah,
this is what's happening. They're even making artificial wombs so that they can grow babies in a womb, in an artificial womb.
They like the
I mean,
Matrix, isn't it? When they're all when he broke out of that thing, it's a bit like that.
Yeah.
But
We're not conspiracy theorists, because you can find all of this online if you look.
I sometimes wish I didn't know what I know. I wish I'd be angering people, and I know that people get scared of this, but Jane's got more courage than most of the men in this country.
Well, I was listening to LBC News, and people are irate. They're ringing up LBC News because they're irate that James O'Brien is having a right fuming morning because he's so angry that this paedophile, which he is, he's a paedophile. Prince Andrew Prince, because he's not Prince Andrew anymore. Andrew Prince is a paedophile. He's a paedophile. So
many others.
His mother gives £12 million to get him off the hook. Well, I'm sorry, but the police are doing this with the grooming gangs, because the grooming gangs are connected because of taxi firms. Their taxi firms are being used by these corrupt social services to traffic the children. Well, they're not going to touch them. They're not going to touch them because these trafficking gangs, some of these trafficking gangs have got connections with the fostering companies that are unregulated. They say that they can only have certain age groups in these unregulated fostering homes, but they've actually got a lot younger children in them, and they're not being regulated. No. How can you put children in places that you don't know what's happening to them? Well, they don't want to regulate them because they know they're trafficking them through these foster homes.
I'll see a few more things, but Rosie watched the last podcast. We know there's a facility in Salisbury which used for experimentation on children and adrenochrome harvesting. Let's drop that bombshell in there. Yeah, adrenochrome harvesting. Yeah,
we've got evidence of them trafficking them to medical units,
but also
research hospitals.
There's a castle in Derbyshire that was used to be a zoo at Ryber Castle, which another facility was used. There's a fairground in North Wales, because I found out quite a lot more since I spoke. St. Michael's Mount, I think, is well known as Epstein's Island. I think there was a lot of people hoping that when they did the G7 on there, they just dropped something on there and got rid of all of it. You know what I mean? But
there's a lot of places. There's tunnels.
Yeah.
I was speaking to an undertaker, not the famous undertaker, another undertaker in London, and he was telling me about the tunnels under St Thomas's and St Guy's Hospital.
Yeah.
So they can easily take what they're doing is taking babies from mothers in hospitals for risk of future emotional harm. This is from the 1984 Children's Act, and they don't have to have a reason. They can just say that because you were brought up in care, this is one of their this is one that they use thousands and thousands of times. Yeah. Because you were brought up in care, you won't be able to parent this baby properly. So we're taking this baby for risk of future emotional harm.
Likewise, with parents that have, people that have been in a mental health unit. I mean, that's another travesty and a shocking industry. It's cruel. But anyone that's been in there, they very rarely get to keep their children once they've gone inside a mental health
this links in with the the thing about the medical aspect of whether you're suitable to be a parent.
Yeah, it's disgraceful. It's absolutely
shocking. Yeah, we've got a gentleman now who's one of our campaigners, and he had ADS or something. And one of the things, I'm not up on mental health things, and his brother died when he was 12, and it caused him a lot of issues. He's a wonderful man, and I will say, with my hand on my heart, he would make the best father in the world. He's a lovely, lovely gentleman. Took his baby off him, lied to the mother, said that he was a wanted criminal, which he wasn't. Absolute rubbish. Put her in a home, took the baby off them, and now they're fighting to get the baby back. And you know what the council have done? Tried to make him intentionally homeless by taking his not supported living, his temporary place, taking it off him. So we're fighting for them.
It's disgraceful. It's all upside down and inside out, isn't it?
Sorry, I've got to take. This is my son Costa's taking him to work.
Thank you, mate. All right. Won't keep you much longer. Like a cool dude there, man. Cool
Yeah,
dude.
we'll just wrap up. He
Yeah.
is a cool dude.
Two
Very
more
cool
things
dude.
if you want to mention.
Yes.
CareTech and is it Lord
Oh,
Darcy as
CareTech.
well? So I'll just give it a little bit on.
Yes, what's happening now is CareTech, massive industry. They are now floating on the stock market. So actually people can buy shares in selling the children. So, you know, if you don't want to be part of child trafficking, do not buy shares in CareTech, because CareTech is sweeping up all these fostering agencies, any of it they can get their hands on. It's like any, you know, it's like Benson's for Beds is Steinhoff, which Steinhoff is, you know, they're all, Steinhoff is the largest mover of furniture globally. CareTech are the largest mover of children globally.
Well, there was Evergreen, wasn't there? Evergreen is Hillary Clinton's code name.
Yes,
So most people
Steinhoff,
know that.
if you look at Wayfair,
Yeah.
Nelly, you cannot get up here. That's the dog. Steinhoff, Wayfair furniture. If you
So you had the
look at,
Wayfair furniture scandal as well, didn't you? Where you had like for £60,000 you could buy a wardrobe that had a child's
well,
name.
if you look at their website, the majority of their furniture is Steinhoff.
Right.
And Sandip Mahajan is a director in Steinhoff.
Right.
And he's our senior governance officer.
So,
there's your link.
Would you
there's
put
your
him
link with the child trafficking.
Would you put that Sandeep and Lord Darcy at the top with Matt Hancock? Would you put
Lord Darcy runs the genomics research hospital where they're taking our children from through Caritas Care Limited.
And that's actually
Lord
registered.
Darcy.
Isn't Matt Hancock registered as Genomics UK? It's like we
I don't know about Matt Hancock. I haven't looked into him. It's one that I haven't got me.
Well, I looked into Genomics UK.
I haven't fingered him yet.
Matt Hancock's name pops up, but he murdered all the
I'll
elderly.
tell you who else.
I want Matt Hancock.
Yeah, Priti Patel. I mean, they all know, honestly, all the MPs know exactly what's going on. Yep. They're having thousands of letters put on their desks every week from parents that are screaming for justice, because we are literally screaming. We're just as we wrap up, we're in Cardiff on the 22nd of this month, outside the government building there, the Senate or whatever it's called. We're going to be there on the 22nd of the month. At the end of March, we're going to be in London. Look at Billy O'Connor's page for that.
Storm London, is it? Storm London, is it?
Please, let's just get this out there, because this is as big as the other thing. Yeah. If not bigger, because they've already, when I hear people shouting, they're coming next for our children, actually, I'm sorry, but they've already got them by thousands upon thousands.
Yeah. And for me as well, I'm down outside Scotland Yard. There's a bit of a static convoy there, and a lot of people, like, you know,
get down there and support.
Yeah, throwing a lot of hate at me. I don't care, but for me, it's more than just a mandate, which is what the Canada one was about. You know me personally, Jane. We've become quite good friends, and I'm fighting this as well.
Fighting for all of it.
Of course. The
whole thing. It's all connected.
Yeah, let me just get me signed, actually. Let me get me signed, because I got on Sky News with his sign on Saturday, wasn't it?
Okay, quickly, I've got to.
I was live on Sky News, stood in the background, and I've covered it.
Were you? Oh, brilliant! Oh, brilliant!
Yeah, so stop the chemtrails.
There you go.
End child trafficking. Suspend 5G.
End chemtrails. Stop testing now. Suspend 5G and stop injecting those as well. Yeah, well done.
And on the other side, we're not quite
right. Well, I will salute you, sir, for all your work.
You know, for those who didn't realise that's what it was, we called it from day one. End all mandates as well. Do you know what I mean?
Now people are waking up. I think they're waking up with the energy thing as well, you know, but they're getting rid of proper energy and putting these stupid wind farms out in the sea. And we don't even get any money for that. You know, it's Denmark company. The people on the west coast of Cumbria have to look at these wind farms, and they're not getting any money for it. They could have built them, they could have manufactured them, they could have owned them, they could have been running them, maintenance. They're getting nothing. It
turns out as well with the smart meters and smart cities and all that.
I've got to go, Si.
Right, okay, well, it turns out anything labelled smart is pretty dumb, and anything that's dumb is pretty smart.
Amen.
Military bases, you know what I mean? Well, you have a good day, and I'll catch you soon. I'll put this out there.
You too, mate. I can't wait to get down there at the pen again.
I look forward to seeing you.
God bless you.
God bless you. God bless you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.